Hello friends, welcome to the Infologs YouTube channel. In today's video we are going to see the next video on Blazor technology, and that is the most important one, that is life cycle of Blazor component. If you talk about the traditional ASP.NET web forms, for there we have a few events, or we can say the page life cycle, on which few events were occurred on every request. Okay, let's talk about the traditional first. So I'll open a notepad. Okay, so in the traditional ASP.NET you will see that pre-initialization, right? Pre-init, and then init, and then init complete. Okay, this is the one section. And for the second, that is preload, then load, and load complete, and then pre-render, render, and then render complete, and at the end of unload. Okay, these are the few events that were occurred on a server for each request. So the same way we have a similar kind of life cycle for the Blazor framework as well. So let's jump to the article first, where we see all the related information about the page life cycle of a Blazor component. Right, so if you go to the infologs.in, here you will see the few articles related to the blog, related to the Blazor framework. So currently we are going to focus on number 5, that is lifecycle on Blazor component. So if you click on there, you will see a very interesting and descriptive article. So here you will see the methods which are going to execute if they are written on a component level. Right, so in Blazor, I hope you have understood everything is component based. What are the hosting models, and if you didn't know the basic template of Blazor, which is available in Visual Studio 2019, I'll suggest you just go and watch our existing video. So on the Infologs channel, you can go ahead and you'll find a very simple and easy playlist for that, and you'll see these kind of videos out there. So you don't need to go to the YouTube, find each and every video. Just search for the Infologs channel and there you go. Right, so let's back to the point. Yeah, so Blazor framework includes synchronous and asynchronous lifecycle methods. Override lifecycle methods to perform additional operations on components during component initializations and rendering. Okay, so here are a few events that I have listed on initialized, then async, on parameter set. Okay, the name implies. Then after render async, should render, and then disposable. Well, and let's talk about the component initialization method. As it seems, if you compare with the previous traditional ASP.NET, then there will be pre-init and load kind of things. The same is here as well. Okay, so you just need to override the event based on your requirement, whether you want to go for async or just synchronous way. This is a simple example out there. To perform an asynchronous, this is the important one. So if you want to perform any asynchronous task, to perform asynchronous operations, override async and use await keyword on the operations. Okay, that is depending on your requirement, whether you want to go for async request. Okay, but it's quite good if you go for the async initialization method, performance point of view. Then we have a parameter before parameters. Okay, set a parameter async sets parameters supplied by the component's parent in the render tree. So here you can do your own work, or you want to validate that kind of parameters, so that kind of stuff can be done here. And then after parameter set, okay, the same. So if you read this, when the component is initialized and has received its first set of parameters from its parent component. If we talk about the component can be a nested component, right? So it can be a component which has a multiple child component, that is a complex. So we can consider it as a tree, right? A tree kind of thing. So as soon as the parameter receives the first parameter, so this event can get executed. So when the parameter component renders and supplies only known primitive immutable types of which at least one parameter has changed. Any complex type parameters, the framework can't know whether the values of complex type parameters have muted internally, so it treats the parameter state as changed, right? So you will get the state what's it, notifications of parameter changed and all that. So asynchronous work, when applying parameters and property values must occur during the on parameter set async lifecycle event. So there are few points that you have to keep in mind, right? Then after a component render, it's a similar kind of thing. So here we can check for the first render, which is provided by these events by default. And then if this is the first render, we can do appropriate actions on that render kind of thing. Okay, and asynchronous work immediately after rendering must occur during the on after render async lifecycle event. So again, this is similar kind of thing. And then should render. So this is the override should render to suppress the UI refreshing. If the implementation returns true, the UI is refreshed. Okay, this kind of, again, this is coming like a status. Whether I want to, yeah. Then again, if I want to forcefully change the status of my component, so here's the simple way: state changed notifies the component that its state has changed. When applicable, calling state changed causes the component to be re-rendered. So let's assume that I have done some UI operations, sorry, not UI operations, I have done some logical operations in my C# code, and now I wanted to ask Blazor to refresh the UI. So how do I tell to the framework that UI needs to refresh? So this is the case, simple. You need to ask for the state changed. Okay, so you just call state changed, it automatically re-rendered the UI. So here's the simple example that I have created based on writing code. So let's flip to Visual Studio and create a simple application and check for the lifecycle events, right? So let me open up the Visual Studio. Okay, it's just let this close it. Okay, so here I'll open up the same project that we are creating, that we are using from our previous tutorials. So here you'll see a solution which has multiple projects, maybe. Okay, just few seconds. Okay, this is taking a little bit more time because this is the first time initialization, that's why. The project is loaded successfully. Here you can see the introduction of Blazor that we have talked about in our previous tutorials, the default project, and we have explored few things like creating a to-do list applications with the code change. Right, now I'm going to create a new project for this video. So let's create a new project and name it as Blazor component lifecycle. Blazor component lifecycle. Select a Blazor app, then go ahead and hit next. Oops, back. Don't go that way. So here we need to create a new project. Currently I don't want go for HTTPS, so I'll just next create, don't need HTTPS, and hit create. So it will create a new project, and I'll set it as default, set as start a project, and click on express IS. So oops, we got a few errors. So okay, I think it's loading few NuGet packages. Okay, now it's clear. Okay, I think I'm gonna build it now. Project is built successfully, now it's running. Yeah, there you go. Right, now we are going to specifically talk about this counter component. If you go here, there are some operations, okay, on the client side is going on. So let's go back to the code. I'll stop the execution and open up the under pages. You'll see the counter component. Right, now here it's time to override the events and check for the execution of lifecycle. So I'll just set up public override, and here you'll see set parameter async. I'll again control KD, then we have a few event, and I'll write console dot write line, and here we'll say set parameters async method. Right, so now we'll save all of this and try to execute. So I just hit F5, and as soon as before loading the counter component, I'll go ahead and open up this output window, and then clear everything. So this is the project. Again I'll clear everything, and now I'll click on counter. So here you'll see the set parameter async method is getting executed. Okay, if I hit the breakpoint over here, so I have to go back to here, click on here, you'll see the parameter view, right? The non-public methods and public methods, everything you will see in this method, right? So now going back to the article, so here you can see some on initialized method as well. So very simple, just go and stop the project, and then you need to put the keyword override, and here you can see on initialized. Okay, so if you noticed, when we written the public keyword and then I have write override, so at that time we just got a set parameter async method. Okay, that was the public. So here you just need to write a override keyword, and then you can just hit the space, so you'll see the all event that is available as an as for the page life cycle of Blazor component. So as soon as you hit the on initialized method, it will come as a protected method, right? So now here I'll go ahead and use a console.write a line, and I'll give a message on initialized method. Okay, that's simple, and I'll go ahead and this. Okay, just put this event on the top. So okay, now we got the on initialized as well. Again we'll write the override keyword, and then we'll select the async. Okay, and then we'll go for console.writeLine on initialized async method, and then we'll go over for on parameter set. So for the interest of time, I'll just copy all of this and change the name to on parameter set. Okay, and then again on parameter async, the same method will be there. We just need a put a async. Okay, I think async. Okay, and then we'll go for after render. Here you will see the first render. So again I'll put a condition here, first render. If first render is true, then we'll give a message that on after render method, and first render will the status of first render plus first render, else a simple message on after render method. Then async, again it's a similar kind of thing. Control KD. So just need to put async keyword, on render method, and at last we'll see the status should render. Okay, console.writeLine should render. Now the code is written. So now just I'll remove this breakpoint and hit the apply. Okay, till the project gets launched, actually it's launched. Now we have to go for the output window and then select your project. Okay, make sure you should select your project, otherwise you won't see the console output, right? So again, go back to your project, click on counter and see. first of all it executed the set parameterized async method. Okay, so these are the asynchronization executions, so you can't know that which is executing first, but according to the theory it should be an initialized, right? So then parameter async method that is executed. Okay, so this is the parameter async method. Oops. So here output window is here, yeah. And then we got on initialize method, then on initialized async parameter set, then on parameter set async, on render. Okay, and this is the first render of true. Okay, now I'm gonna click on this button. So okay, but before that let me clear all this thing, and again I'm gonna click this button. So here you'll see should render, that is executing the status that the UI needs to be re-render because we made some changes in the C# code. As you can see on the button, we are executing a method called increment counter on the counter that is incrementing itself, and that counter is referred in the Blazor syntax in our HTML. So we need to tell HTML that we have to re-render. That means the component wants to re-render. So on that basis, this should render event is executing, right? So if you go back to the output window, so here and after render, and obviously there are a few other events that needs to be executed as per the name implies, on after render and on after render async. Okay, but if you go this on after render method, you will see the first render is returning the false status because we are getting this statement executed. Okay, if you notice, so we have just on after render method message, right? Okay, and at last, as soon as I hit the home button, that means my component is getting unload. So where is my unload? Okay, that for that I think I forgot to include the dispose kind of thing. So where is that? Should render. Okay, state change that. Okay, yeah, this is the dispose. Okay, and for that, as usual, we need to import some kind of things. So here @implements I dispose. Okay, disposable or what? Yeah, I disposable, and we need to override that. Sorry, we don't need to override. We just need to put the public void. Dispose method. Okay, or let me check one thing. So let's go ahead and build this project. It should failed. Okay, so it is failed. Okay, counter does not implement the interface. Okay, this iDisposable dot dispose, right? So here we have to, sorry, oops. So, this is the interface and this is our method. So we have to implement this method, but it should give you the IntelliSense, but currently it is not giving me any kind of IntelliSense. Hope in your Visual Studio version it should be there. So we just need to put that method in here, and just I'll write a message console.write line component unload. again hit F5. So now let's see whether that is working fine or not. So let me open up again the output window and select the Blazor component, clear everything. Now just click on counter. Status and everything is loaded successfully. Again I'll click on the counter range. So again you will see that each and every time this event is executing, and at last I'm gonna click on home, so counter component should get unload. So here you'll see the component is unloaded successfully. Okay, so these are the basic events that you have to keep in mind before working with the component, right? And okay, in the next video we will talk about the very basic thing that I need to display a loading sign till my data gets loaded from the server. Okay, so in this example let me show you the other things that we have already talked in our getting started with Blazor tutorial. So that we have data sections, and under that we have a service which retrieves the or generates the temporary data for the weather forecast, and then we are using that service in our fetch data.razor component and showing all the details out there, right? So let's assume okay, let me run this. Let's assume that our service takes few time to load all the details or to fetch the details. So at that moment we wanted to show a loader sign. So how we can do that? Okay, so currently this is very fast because this is static data, so we'll learn how we can show the loader sign before getting data from the server, or till it gets the data from the server, right? So yeah, see you in the next video tutorial. Thank you for watching. Yeah, bye bye.